WrestleMania show itself. Let's get started there with the pre-show. There was a pre-show on USA that started at 6:00, and they still didn't. When did the Battle Royal happen? 4:00 that morning? The Andre the Giant Battle Royal? I never saw it.
It happened sometime between 6 and 8. I don't know. It must have happened around 6.
I think it happened before 6:00 because I was watching the USA kickoff show at 6 p.m. Eastern.
It's so fucking long. It's so fucking long. I mean,
so I never saw the Battle Royal, but I tuned in to this USA kick. This is an hour of time on USA Network between 6 and 7 o'clock. And they treated on Sunday night before the biggest show of the year, the pay-per-view, the Seldom Network, whatever, and they treated it like one of the old Barker Channel fucking pay-per-view pregame shows that we used to fucking hate to do because who was going to watch that shit? They should have called this Announcer Mania, right? It was just boom, here we are in the Superdome, no cold open to really get people into a fucking show. Where's Dave Sahadi when you need him? No package at the start. I had to write all these people's name down. Renee Young, that what his name? Rosenberg's Peter Rosenberg?
Something, yeah.
Some fella named Rosenberg. Booker T, David Otunga are at a desk. Those are 4 announcers already, and it was just a flat open. And I'm sorry, if Renee Young is going to be the host of something, they need a male voice growling at the start. Welcome to WrestleMania or whatever the fuck. But this is USA Network. It wasn't a Barker Channel show. They just opened like they were all sitting there waiting for a goddamn bus. And then they pitched down to Sam Roberts. This was the best part of the fucking show. They pitched to Sam Roberts on the floor in the crowd and to say something, and he got so hopelessly lost, and they left him twisting in the fucking wind. I can't even by the time that I could have gone back, I was filling up my fucking DVR, and I said, fuck it, I'm going to delete all this shit. But this is one of the things I wanted to watch again. He said something and kind of half-ass finished his thought, but they were obviously telling him to stretch, so he kept going. Then he got into something he couldn't get out of, and finally he figured out how to get out of it, but they didn't know he was finished. They just stayed on him. He looked like he was ready to dig a fucking hole with a shovel in the floor to escape. It was like a Saturday Night Live sketch. It was the most awkward-looking fucking live television moment I've seen in a long time. And I don't think we saw him again. So he may have died of fucking embarrassment. Anyway, the Superdome looked great. The lighting, etc., all that looked great. Then you see Rockstar Spud / Drake Maverick with the Cruiserweight belt, I believe it was. Then we joined Nigel McGuinness and Vic Joseph are the announcers. And Cedric Alexander against Mustafa Ali was the first match that I saw on the official program. Cedric, I know from Ring of Honor. We used him with Caprice Coleman in the tag team back 2011, 2012. He was so young then. Now he looks in great shape. He's lost weight. He looks fucking ripped. Mustafa Ali, I've never seen. I have no idea what his fucking gimmick is. He came out looking like a fucking cyborg. There was some fucking outfit. It was the worst entrance music I've ever heard in my life. So I don't really know what the fuck's going on there. And herein is your duck spot incarnate. These guys are great athletes, but they started with well done gymnastics. They were gymnastics. They were well done, but they were gymnastics. It was flawless, smooth, controlled, rolling through and reversing. And when somebody swings and the other guy ducks and keeps running, the guy that just swung doesn't register it on his face. Doesn't look like, wow, I missed a fucking guy. Doesn't get off balance, immediately flows right into the rope so that they can smoothly come together for the next stage of the spot. And I'm not one to knock Cedric here because, like I said, and part of it is they know they have a limited amount of time. They're in this big building. They're probably nervous. Oh, shit, we don't want to fuck up. The whole 9 yard, the pressure. Believe me, I've main evented that building, gentlemen. Thank you. And I've wrestled on WrestleMania. And my shit with Brother Love looked more real than y'all guys shit did because we were actually potatoing each other for one thing, fucking accidentally bloodying each other. But don't be so smooth. Pause in between the moves sometimes like you're thinking of them as you do them rather than reciting a routine in your mind or executing a routine that you have in your mind. There needs to be more surprise reaction to the counters or to the missed moves instead of just flowing through to the next thing. They did, I guess this is modern wrestling. They did all their stuff well. Once again, there was another. They wanted to take a big bump, both of them off the top rope. So they did a deal where they have to help each other up there and awkwardly try to position and help balance each other until they get it set. So you can see right through it. It's a buzz killer. So they take the risk for no reason. Well, there's a reason. Everybody knows it's fucking phony and they're not counting the setup against you necessarily. But if you notice the classic matches, you can't see through the setups. So it's funny how that works out. So they did everything they did well. It was a performance. And I don't know why on my USA Network special, a Ronda Rousey VTR package popped up in the middle of that match. I don't know why I didn't even hear a pitch to it. But anyway, they did a reverse Frankensteiner that why in the fuck with all the neck problems are people still doing that move? It's not necessary. And I just didn't Cedric when they did the false finish on the splash, right? Cedric should have beat him there or just hit his finish, but they just slowed it down and he just did several things to where it was like instead of wham 1 2 3 yeah, it was like wham 1 2 3 yeah. That's just what I thought. I hate that they say biggest show in all of entertainment. I hate that shit. They did the promos with John Cena sitting in the crowd. It felt like they were filling time on the USA Network. Instead of, they should have had a ball buster fucking 44-minute or whatever time they get per hour without commercials fucking show that would sell their fucking main events that night. Then they introed Beth Phoenix and Corey Graves and Paige as more announcers. Paige looked like she was in criminal court. What the fuck was the matter with her? She looked like she could give a fuck, and she sounds like one of the fun girls from Mount Pilot. The ones that used to chase Andy and Barney. Hello, doll. When did she start sounding like goddamn Tallulah Bankhead? What I'm asking you some serious questions.
I can't tell you. All I know is the first time I saw Paige on WrestleMania was that promo video for her movie where she pops up and it's a close up of her face. And I don't know if she's into Rocky Horror or what it is, but her makeup was just, who am I to criticize someone's makeup? But her makeup was ridiculous and she sounded high as fuck. I don't know. But that was one of the highlights of WrestleMania.
So then they do plug the movie on USA and they go to the women's battle royal, which alternated to me between everybody standing around and everybody fighting everybody and what the fuck that's actually what the fuck is my fucking note. This went on forever. And I'm not knocking the girls. I'm sure in there somewhere were some girls that can work, but I couldn't tell from having a goddamn clusterfuck battle royal where I don't know what the fuck was going on, and there was a lot of blah. When it got down to be Bayley and Sasha, they got the people, and they had them then because you could understand what the fuck was going on, and it wasn't such a fucking clusterfuck. And then there was a great pop for Bayley tossing her, and then there's Naomi, which I had not noticed. I had not noticed she was still in it because I didn't know what the fuck was going on previously. But she steals it. So, but she's a heel because she steals the battle royal like a heel against Bayley, who's a babyface. But then Naomi is happy and celebrates like a babyface, and the announcers talk about how great it is she's won. Who the fuck are the babyfaces and the heels here?
I think Naomi's a babyface. I think.
Then why did she steal the battle royal?
There are no friendships in a battle royal.
Oh, good God. All right. Fuck. The Reigns and Brock package was very cool, serious and violent stuff. I want to always say that their packages and their productions head and shoulders above everything else in the business, and it usually has been, but I think Dave Sahadi's packages had more drama. and fucking and better wrap ups and the fucking the voiceover voice they sometimes would use and etc. But anyway, then the more announcers filled and fuck around is what I wrote. At the close of this show, it was not. That's all you saw on the USA was the fucking. It was the Cruiserweight match, which is what it was. But then the women's battle royal and a bunch of plugs and a bunch of announcers. Fucking. That's all I saw. I don't know. Maybe I missed something. I did have to stop a couple times through this night and pause it to either piss or a couple times make a sandwich, and shave once. I had to shave once. But all right, here we go with WrestleMania. Once again, a female announcer. I'm sorry. Why couldn't we have Howard Finkel? I need to hear a goddamn loud bass male voice. Welcome to WrestleMania instead of the girls. I'm sorry. But who was Chloe and Halle?
I have no idea. What were they introduced as? The future of music?
Well, fucking. Then if I was a musician right now, I'd goddamn try to find another line of work or retrain myself. The Dome looked great. Okay, now here's Michael Coles, Corey Graves, Jonathan Coachman. Announcer Mania continues. In part of the intro package had to be sponsored by the New Orleans Travel Bureau. I'm pretty sure. But that was a nice package. They did their pyro and ballyhoo. They did a great light show. Here comes the Intercontinental title match, and it's a three-way. So the first match out of the gate on the pay-per-view is a multiple-man match. I do not at all, as I've mentioned, get Miz's look. I don't get his outfit. I don't get his whole deal. They introed the Spanish announcers and the German announcers, and there was three of the Germans.
Whenever they do that throughout the show, it's ridiculous because they just want to show off that, look, how many countries we're in, because all you get is this. And let's now go to the team from Germany. Oh, good about WrestleMania. Then they go to the other guy who's just like, I need to say something too. We're here at WrestleMania. Then they go to the next. It's just the same thing over and over.
And you know what? But and later on, I wrote it down. Then we heard they had Chinese, they had Japanese, they had Spanish, they had Italian, they had Russian, they had Portuguese. Next year, they got to do a phony country. Next year, they have got to do a phony, like a Borat bunch of bullshit and introduce, here's Go-Fuckistan or wherever, and have the fucking announcers speaking Carney. And
they should do they should do a smart feed just for the smart fans who want to shit on everything. Why not? That's a great idea. Why not?
Well, now people will think you're lobbying for a job as one of the announcers because I have
no interest in working for WWE. I'll say it right here.
But to knock it? Anyway, no. Okay, Rollins versus Miz versus Finn Balor. This, once again, it was quick and fast and precise stuff. But it was too fast and it was rushed and it was too smooth. And I know that, once again, here's the opening match of WrestleMania, even though they've seen apparently 3 or 4 other matches in the building. And you've only got a limited amount of time. You don't want to go over. You want to do your stuff. But it was once again, and I love Rollins. And I've been a fan of Balor's. I haven't seen that much of him since he became Finn Balor. But also, is everybody a babyface here? If so, why are they all fucking fighting at the biggest show of the year? And who are we supposed to cheer for? Because Miz just had a baby. I thought he was a heel. He sure looked like a fucking heel. He looks like a big dick in that fucking outfit. And then they talk about his baby he just had. So he's a baby face, but they fucking like Balor. He's a baby face. Rollins, they fucking like him. He's a baby face. What the fuck?
Plus, what bigger baby face spot is there for a heel than he comes out on the entranceway and sends his boys back? No. I want to go out there on my own. I want to do it myself. For my baby. So it was a multiple person match. It was good for what it was. Rollins stole the show for me, but Balor was good too. I just don't get Miz. But that's I don't know, a blow off match or a match you just need to put 3 people in, and who are we supposed to fucking boo? Then we meet Tom Phillips and Byron Saxton for the women's title match. Charlotte and Asuka, and this was fucking fabulous. From the entrances, Charlotte looks great.
Asuka had a great fucking, has oomph on her entrance, everything. Their wrestling looked more like a struggle than the men's. That's what I'm saying. Make it, instead of being so smooth and so flawless, like they think like that's what they're supposed to be working for, to where the boys will say, wow, look how smooth he is. But no, you're supposed to be struggling against your opponent for this shit. And the women struggled, and the men had not been struggling as much. And you can tell Charlotte's a great athlete, and they did great stuff. And the moonsault into the fucking triangle was insane. And the suplex off the apron to the floor, which was a second one of those basically I've seen in fucking 2 days, that was too much for the girls. I'm sorry. Yes, I'm going to be sexist there. There's no reason vertical suplex off the apron on the floor. Those girls don't have any fucking padding. They don't have enough fat on them to fucking do that. And it's too much. That should have been could have been a count out angle. That could have been a goddamn turn of some fucking description, right? But anyway, otherwise than that, and besides, they did a Spanish fly off the top rope for a 2 count. It's great they can do it, but once again, let's save it for next time. This is not, it's like potato chips. They'll make more matches. This is not the last match you're ever going to have. It doesn't have to be. Charlotte does a great spear. They chopped each other nice. I thought the figure 4 into the bridge was incredible. And you do have to have Charlotte Flair win, at that point in time. But then
we just talked about streaks ending on the drive-thru. So what did you think about that? The fact that it was the end of Asuka's winning streak.
Well, and that was great because it's at WrestleMania and to who they are presenting as the premier female athlete, and it sets shit up for the future.
I agree. So, fantastic match.
And it's a full-time person that's ending the streak. And it's not like she can have another streak. It's not like you can't have another 20-win WrestleMania streak in the next 20 fucking years or probably, whatever. But that was I could have done without all the hugging at the end. I still want a little bit more grudge with my wrestling, but
it was a great match. And believe it or not, Battle Royal notwithstanding, I believe that the women's division right now is the best thing on the main roster for WWE. It's the best athletes, it's the best matches, and it's not as silly as some of the male stuff. I think it's the best thing they have going right now.
I think the thing with the Battle Royal, I'm not trying to shit on the fact that all the girls wanted to be on the show, but that's the problem. Everybody, apparently, at this point in time, everybody cannot be on this show because they have too many people. I mean, and I was in a gimmick Battle Royal at WrestleMania 17, and with 20, including many Hall of Famers, and me and Bruce Pritchard. Still, it was a 3-hour show, and we were only out there for 12 minutes or whatever. And they still had everybody else on the show, but they've expanded too far. There's too many people. So it's going to have to be, if they're going to keep WrestleMania being one show, it's got to be, this is what everybody works toward, and only the elite are going to get on it every year. And hopefully, they can rotate some of the underneath matches or give other people a chance or whatever. But you can't just make this a consolation prize and have a battle royal and have a women's battle royal and have goddamn these multi-person matches, besides the fact that they mostly suck because they're awkward and there's no reason for them, except in certain circumstances. It doesn't show anybody to their best light usually. Anyway. The figure 4 into the one-armed bridge was incredible for Charlotte, and this is what we're going to start looking at. This was a schizophrenic show too, because this and Styles and Nakamura and Angle and Rousey's match with Triple H and Stephanie were not in any way similar to each other, but they looked like they belonged on the same show. But then there was other shit that didn't look like there's always been a need for the matches to have variety on a card. A tag match, a single match, a grudge match fight, a technical match, a girls match, the difference in the matches, but it can't be that this is like putting the Invisible Man on the same card with goddamn the fucking Bret Hart and Steve Austin I Quit match or whatever. It just doesn't look like the same company should have presented all this stuff, as we will talk about. Anyway, here comes a 4-way. Here comes a four-way after the girls match and the three-way for the U.S. title. Bobby Roode and Rusev and Jinder Mahal and Randy Orton. And I've always been a Bobby Roode fan. And Randy Orton looks and is a superstar and a premier where he has every bit of it, all the looks, all the tools. When he's motivated, even when he's not, he can coast and get by because he's a natural. And Bobby Roode is incredible. And you could tell they were levels above the other two guys in timing and positioning and body language and execution of things. I wish that this had been a single match. I'd love to see Roode and Orton. But once again, it was after we met the French and Italian and Chinese and Hindu and Portuguese and Russian and Japanese announcers. They did a cool multiple RKO spot, and I caught Rusev slapping his leg on a kick that the guy was supposed to duck and did duck, and he slapped his leg anyway because he forgot. But they've got Bobby Roode in a match and Randy Orton in a match, and Jinder Mahal wins it. And it just, I don't know. And it was too many people.
This match was I'm going to go watch the Mets game for a little bit break in the show because they were on Sunday Night Baseball, unfortunately, because ESPN just ruins baseball by putting it on Sunday nights. I missed most of it. I will say this. If I was going to start a promotion, I think Rusev would be one of the first people I'd want to sign. I think he's a star. I think he's money.
I saw I don't understand the Rusev Day thing. And I understand he had his own ring announcer, but I don't know. I bet, but I haven't seen. Once again, nobody gets over in a four-way, whether it's wrestling or sex.
Well, let me ask you this, Jim.
At least in my experience.
Not necessarily exclusive to this match or even about this match, but overall from everything you saw this weekend, because this was one of the things that really hit me. If I told you there was no wellness policy whatsoever, would you believe me?
None whatsoever, no. Selective enforcement, yes.
Oh, my God. It's like going back 20 years to the late 90s. It's almost like they just dropped it because some of the physiques I've seen this last few days, it's ridiculous. There's only one way you can get those physiques. I've been in a gym. I've been a bodybuilder. There's only one way to get those physiques. So something's up.
And once again, not everybody. I mean, I think we're good on Miz. Miz ain't on anything.
You're going to hate this. You're going to hate me saying this. I've come around on Miz.
Oh.
Not necessarily in-ring work, but he's believable as the dick that you hate. But his promos, he's actually one of the best heel promos in the business. And he gets real heel heat as opposed to just go away heat, which I think he used to have. I've come around on Miz. I think he does a really good job in that role.
Well, I guess anything's possible. We'll see what happens. Next time I watch WrestleMania, I'll check back in with him. Okay, the Rousey match package, that was great stuff, obviously. Oh, and Mick Foley was with somebody in a candy bar spot. Triple H and Stephanie entrance, Angle entrance, Rousey entrance. Here is my only criticism. Ronda Rousey comes out without the game face. She's smiling. She's happy. No, I wanted to see the goddamn entrance. I wanted to see that face. And I can't believe that everybody else wouldn't have told her specifically, even if they thought there was doubt whether she would or not, have the face. It just hurt my feelings. I want to see that fucking face. But apart from that, this was not only the highlight of the entire fucking show, but the highlight of the weekend and probably the best fucking professional wrestling match that I've seen in I don't know how long. It was perfect. If Triple H laid this out, I bow to him. He is a genius. But they took their time. They started with some gaga. Kurt and Triple H, slowed it down and set everything up, and Stephanie could do a few heel manager little spots. Then Ronda takes the nice bump off the apron. They were setting it up, but finally when she gets the tag, and there's another little logic loophole in that, yes, Stephanie McMahon has suddenly become physically capable of blocking the fucking armbar from the most accomplished female fighter in the world, but accepting that also. The best thing at that point, an hour and a half or more into WrestleMania, was Stephanie McMahon fighting Ronda Rousey. It was what it was supposed to be. They did it great. The people were with it. and they didn't go too long before the guys got back in so the people wouldn't get tired of it, and they did table stuff. And then the spot with Ronda and fucking Triple H, which was the timing all the way through was great on shit. They milked shit. And then it was chaos from there as soon as, they did that. Then fucking Triple H and Angle have another great series. Ronda was there for everything timing-wise. She had to make a save once. It was right there. The armbar on Triple H and then on Stephanie, boom, boom, boom. And once again, Ronda Rousey tapping out Stephanie McMahon, which was exactly what they needed to fucking do at WrestleMania. This could have been, and I'm not saying it was all because of her, but the way it was set up and the way that the setup was executed by all parties, can you think of a better debut match for anybody ever in history?
No, and that's the one thing I've been thinking about. The previous at WrestleMania, you had Lawrence Taylor versus Bam Bam, which was obviously Lawrence Taylor was out of breath and Bam Bam carries him, but it was really good at the time. But I've never seen anyone. You hear a lot of people talk about Kurt Angle that way. The thing,
a lot of people will also, I don't mean to cut you off, and you can come back to that, but a lot of people will say, well, Lawrence Taylor and Bam Bam was better because they wrestled and blah, blah, blah. No, the thing is, the overall presentation of the match, how strong did it get over with people, and how flawless was it in its execution on all parts? And Bam Bam and Lawrence Taylor was good for what it was, but it was not those things.
Right. And Kurt Angle's a guy who you always heard, and you were there at the very beginning. He was someone who got it right away. Right away he got it, and right away he was really good. For first match, this was spectacular. And like you said, a lot of credit goes to Triple H. I know he has a lot of douchebag moments in his past, but he's done a lot of good shit in the last few years, and NXT's a great example of it. This match was great. And then fucking Stephanie was fantastic.
Yeah.
She was perfect. I mean, I can't even say it any better. She was perfect in this match.
And here's the thing, and by the way, Kurt Angle's very first match, because I didn't even see that one, but I saw some of the early ones. He was a great athlete, but there was tentative moments and missed timing and et cetera. He got it early and quick, but he didn't get it from the first match was not a classic. This is Ronda Rousey's first match is fucking classic on a big stage, best debut match ever, in my opinion. And I wish, actually, that almost just finished right there. It'd have been easier for me in the long run.
Hey, I got to tell you, though, Jim, I watched this match. I watched most of the show with my kids, but this match especially they paid attention to. They were so into it. And when it ended, my oldest, who's 11, jumped up and she screamed. She was so into it. She was like moving around the room. She said, "That's the greatest match I've ever seen." And what kid says that who's not a big wrestling fan?
Yeah.
They were totally hooked. It was just done to perfection. Everyone deserves so much credit for that match.
But now here we can save some time because the next match was for one of the tag team titles. Every match, by the way, that wasn't a gimmick match was for a championship, which means, once again, you got to rein that shit in. I'm sorry. It's meaningless. When there's multiple tag team champions, multiple singles champions, multiple weight champions, they're all on the same show. It didn't even work when Nick Goulas used to keep 6 or 7 sets of belts in his fucking drawer and have Night of Champions when he didn't have anything hot going on. So the tag team title match comes up. The New Day and a bunch of midgets come out dressed as pancakes. And so I fast forwarded because I needed to catch up some time, because if they ain't going to take it seriously, I ain't either. So whoever was in that match, I don't give a fuck. Then here comes John Cena out to apparently fight the Undertaker, but then here comes Elias, and it was awkward and it took a while, and if they needed to save some time, I don't know why they didn't save some here, and finally John gets to beat up Elias, but then there is a blackout, and then lightning hits Taker's hat in the ring, and Taker really comes out, and he still got the best entrance in the world. And they had the short match, and John did the favors. And that's exactly what it should have been. It obviously wasn't, it couldn't be, I guess, for various physical reasons or whatever, and father time. It couldn't be a classic match on WrestleMania, but it was great to see The Undertaker, and John didn't give a shit for putting him over. And if this is his last one, at least he beat, in his last WrestleMania, the record book is he beat a major superstar, John Cena. So Taker wins the match and all is good, but they could have actually eliminated the whole thing with Elias, in my opinion, because John didn't need to beat up somebody to get over or stay over when he was about to do the job. I don't know what the real thinking was there. And I don't think people would have felt shorted seeing too little Cena if he'd only had to match with the Undertaker. They introduced the Hall of Fame inductifiers. And this attracted Stacy's attention. So she's got like a cup of fucking hummus or whatever, right? And so she sits down on the couch and says, well, I'll watch a couple of minutes of this with you. I said, well, Steen and Generico's match is next. And she got up and said, never mind, and walked out of the room. Okay. Daniel Bryan and Shane McMahon versus Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn. The package was nice. Sami Zayn can talk. Imagine that. I would have never known that. When he worked for me, he was a Spanish mute. So once again, the fuck? It wasn't difficult. Take fucking mask off and get some kind of name and get the power of speech if you're going to work for a fucking television company. Anyway, here's what they did. Shane entered, and then they played Daniel's package and Bryan's package, and he had a huge entrance, and he was over, obviously, and yes, and the place was rocking, right? And then Steen and Zayn hit the ring from behind and jump him and start a brawl and lay Daniel Bryan out at ringside with double team move and the power bomb on the apron, right, and all that shit. And the medical crew comes over to check on him, and everything comes to a standstill, and then Shane decides to go on 2 versus 1. And Shane can't punch, but his other shit's pretty good. It's probably all stiff, because I know when he just hugs you when he likes you, what it feels like. Then they get heat on Shane. And while they're apparently Daniel Bryan is going to be taken back to the hospital by the medical crew, and Shane is fearless and crazy and still staying alive in this thing, but finally he's incapacitated, and Daniel Bryan comes in for a save, and the crowd wakes up, and then he gets the fucking hot tag, and here we go. And finally, Daniel Bryan taps Sami Zayn. I wanted to like this, and it wasn't because of Steen and Generico either. They just had Shane, and I like Shane, and I like Bryan Danielson. Shane's sister just had the perfectly set up match, and this one goes for the stinker of a setup of a match. How can they fuck up this return? This is how they did it. There was no need to fucking milk us further that Daniel Bryan was not going to be able to return to the ring. We've been milked for 2 fucking years, right? Think about this. And I know that they wanted to have Daniel Bryan make his big entrance and get the yes stuff going and get the dome rocking and everything, and they didn't want to spoil that, but they had the heels jump the baby faces from behind when the heels were the ones that were the wronged parties and should have been hitting the ring hot, correct? Because the heels got the last word on the baby faces, didn't they?
They did.
All right. So then let the heels go to the fucking ring. And let them cut a promo again, fucking get the people riled up, and let Shane come out on the stage and say, well, I'm sorry, but I have to inform everybody that there's due to medical reasons, there's going to have to be a substitution in this match. And Shane's dressed to wrestle, and there's no Daniel Bryan anywhere. And people go, what the fuck? And that's when Steen and Generico can fucking say, hey, we knew the guy was a coward or whatever. And Shane can say, no, I wasn't talking about him. I was talking about because of my hernia and my zabada. The doctor said I'm not allowed to wrestle, but that guy behind you is going to kick your ass, because right then here comes Daniel Bryan from behind, and people see him right there. And he starts beating the piss out of fucking Steen and Generico 2 against 1. The place blows. And he does his drop kicks in the corner, and he throws one out on the floor, and he does a dive. And he gets back in the ring, and he does a fancy fucking zabada with the other. And they're taking bumps like goddamn crazy. And he makes that extended comeback, and Shane McMahon just sits down at ringside to watch that. It's 2 against 1, and the match is going. And then the fucking referee settles it down to 1 in, 1 out. And he can do a spot with fucking Steen and a spot with fucking Generico. And in the middle of them, he can fire the people up, and he can look out at the fucking crowd, and they're going to be going berserk, right? There's your sea of yes, yes, yes. He foils their double team move. Go back to the fucking Night of Legends when the Heavenly Bodies worked with Lance Storm because Jericho had a broken arm. That match where he kicked shit out of them. Both of them for like 5 minutes. And then they cut Daniel Bryan off because you had to watch Shane selling. Owens and Zayn could have had a better match, but Shane's a green seller. The crowd died when Daniel Bryan was out on the floor, and they knew he was coming back eventually, and that's what they were waiting on. So it was dead for that point until he got back into it. This way, the people would have been into it from the start. Then they double team fucking Daniel Bryan, and they get him down. And they're beating the piss out of him. And maybe they start giving him fucking shit on his head where they're trying to give him more concussions and put him out. And Shane can't take it. And finally, Shane jumps up on the apron where he's trying to take the tag. Tag me, Bryan. And now Bryan's fighting to tag Shane. But the heels don't want him to. But finally he does, and then Shane makes his comeback and does all his shit, does the coast-to-coast shit, does all that shit, but in the process, the coast-to-coast, he hurts himself. And now they have to dust up Shane for a second, trying to beat him while Daniel Bryan's recuperating on the apron, but now will Shane be able to make the tag? And then finally, Shane somehow makes the fucking tag, and Daniel Bryan fucking dispatches everybody, dumps fucking Owens over the top rope, and taps Zayn out just like he did. And then you've got your fucking yes celebration. And the roof would have come off the fucking place. Just in my opinion. But I don't know why they did what they did. Why did they do what they did?
I can't explain it. What you just came up with was pretty good. But I can't explain it.
Damn it, ain't that difficult?
I will say, I think, I'm about to say Steen, Owens and Generico. Owens and Zayn together as heels are actually really good.
Well, yes, I'm sure they are, and that's the thing. I never said they couldn't work. They're just fucking pains in the ass. But in this case, I didn't like the way it went. And then we followed that up with Alexa Bliss and Nia Jax, right? Nia. Okay, Nia. Mickie James comes out with Alexa Bliss, and she looks not only better than Bliss, but looks like she kicked Bliss's ass. But once again, here's the problem. Now, at least in the previous matches, I knew who the baby faces were, right, and who the heels were. How is the girl, the baby face that's 3 times the size of the girl that's the heel?
Did you see the package before the match?
No, actually, because I was late, so I was zipping.
Okay. Well, here's the thing. Nia and Alexa, they used to be friends. And, it was that kind of friendship where they say they love each other. Or at least one of them meant it, and the other one was actually an evil, manipulative bitch, it turns out. And that was Alexa Bliss, who was caught on camera with her buddy Mickie James in the locker room, talking about how big Nia was and how dumb Nia was. And Nia, she is a big girl, but she's also very sensitive, and she was not happy about that, and this was her revenge.
All right, well, I skipped through most of this because I got to be honest. I'm sorry, but after Charlotte and Asuka, I didn't think they were going to top it. Samoan drop-off second rope and pinfall. AJ versus Nakamura package. Once again, I don't know that I was overly thrilled by the packages. They're, I don't know this time. They've changed flavors or writers or whatever. But Alice Cooper's guitarist was great. Nakamura's entrance was great. Actually, that's the other thing besides Sam Roberts just being flummoxed on live TV. Nakamura's entrance was the other thing. If I hadn't deleted, I was going to go back and watch again. That fucking guitarist is hot in more ways than one, but you want to look at Nakamura. He's acting fucking goofy, but you want to look at him. It's one of those things. And poor old AJ, he should have just fucking come out in a golf cart after that. It was just, he should have just Doug Dillinger fucking driving him in a golf cart. It, out on the grass with the fucking. Oh, God. And AJ's music is horrible. What the fuck is that? That is the worst goddamn rotten fucking music for AJ Styles I've ever heard. And I'm a fan of his. There was some different ring announcer that announced this and the other one. Here's a championship match. And once again, there was great wrestling. And this was the best technical work on the show so far. Selling, reacting, stiff, not too smooth, struggling for things. There was no heel here, but if I hadn't seen a bunch of other matches where there was no heel, then I was fine with it because this was for the world title and this means something, and both guys have their proponents and etc. But I didn't write a bunch of notes down because I thought it was, once again, best technical work so far. Great match. I thought the Styles Clash came a little bit out of nowhere, but seeing what was happening next, that was what was needed. And they hug and kiss, which I'm so overseeing, and then here comes the fucking ball shot. Boom, and kicked the shit out of AJ and got some heat, and I loved that. So once again, here was a serious pro wrestling match with nobody fucking jacking around and not even winking at the audience through the whole thing. And Charlotte and Asuka was the same thing, and really so was Triple H and Stephanie and Angle and Rousey. Great pro wrestling matches of different genres of pro wrestling, but nothing that was insulting or stupid. But then they'll have guys coming out dressed as fucking pancakes and bullshit, right? And then here comes, of course, they follow AJ and Nakamura with, and this was a chance for everybody to take a shit, and I hope they did. Braun Strowman does a lousy promo that takes forever, finding his way through the building and picking a fucking kid who I thought was a little girl, to be quite honest, until we were he was identified as little Nicholas, who was 10 years old. And he's the tag team partner against Cesaro and Sheamus. So it's the same. You've taken your monster and made him look like a goddamn complete idiot. You've buried your fucking tag team champions, Sheamus and Cesaro, because they got beat by Sheamus used to be a top guy, right? Somehow.
Oh, yeah.
So basically, I fucking watched a little bit of this till I realized that they were really going to do this. And then I wanted to turn it off completely, but I knew there was only one more match to go. And I thought I'll never revisit this again. So I just zipped through the whole thing, but they won the fucking belts, Braun Strowman and the kid, which then, of course, I guess they relinquished the next day on Raw. And but what the fuck? Seriously. And there are people who will be in this business who never get to wrestle at wrestling. And I know people, he put a smile on the child's face. And it was a ringer kid anyway. It was a referee's son.
Yeah, use the kid who went into the Hall of Fame or something. At least that kid got a babyface pop.
There could have been an asterisk if he'd have brought that fucking little Jarius kid out, because that kid was fucking great. I saw him dancing and hopping around and cutting the promo. This could have gotten an asterisk. If there was going to be a kid in a match that nobody touched, if he'd have brought him out, it would have worked for me, maybe. And then it could have been the guy was a big fucking monster and beat the other two. But just out of the crowd, what the fuck? How meaningless can you make this shit look? And then we come back to, once again, another mentally fucking schizophrenic. Here comes Roman and Brock for another championship. Did I mention I hate female ring announcers? That's, thank God, Heyman introduced Brock. We've said it before. There's a reason why that Brock Lesnar is the biggest draw in pay-per-view or now network, whatever the fuck. He's the biggest draw, and they pay him the most money for the least work because he's the one guy that people will still believe might possibly just go into business for himself and fuck somebody up or do shit he's not supposed to do, because almost everybody at this point knows he really doesn't care. He doesn't love this. He only does it for the money. He's got a fucking manager that goddamn probably doesn't really love it. I'm sure he loves it more than Brock, but he does this for the money. I'm pretty sure Heyman does. And he's liable to do anything at any time. So you can believe these fucking guys. And he's a fucking beast, and he's stiff, and he smashes the fuck out of you, and he has his own kind of Brock Lesnar match. He is Dick the Bruiser in the mid to late 50s and early 60s. That's the aura he has and the look he has, and the fact that he's dangerous and a riot could start at any minute. And Bruiser, went to jail for beating up the cops at the matches. So of course anything could happen, and this was all real and people knew it. So he's a modern day Dick the Bruiser. They can believe him, and a lot of his stuff looks brutal, because it is, I'm sure. And Roman Reigns hung with him work-wise, and actually I didn't see anything wrong with Roman Reigns' work or his look. It's just the people hate him because of the reasons we've discussed. They figured out that the McMahons wanted him to be the guy without consulting with them. The fans, that is. But they were doing what and I thought we all thought we knew the finish. And right as I had written down, goddamn, they needed blood here. because I figured they were going to beat this guy insensible, and then finally when he won it, people would have to admire the effort that he went through, that he walked through hell with gasoline britches on, right? And right as I said, goddamn, they needed blood here. There's the spear over the desk and the fucking blah, 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 and then the juice, and just beat the piss out of him. I don't know whether I agree with the 6 different F5s, because to be honest, the F5 is not the best looking finish I even saw that fucking night. But I don't know if I agree with 5 or 6 of the F5s or whatever him kicking out. I was almost a little anticlimactic. He could have kicked out of another couple of big things and whatever. But the point is, it was done to set up like that fucking Reigns was going to, survive hell and then win it. And he made an admirable fucking comeback there. But then when Brock caught him, boom, I was like, well, that changed. But that was possibly, I know they were stuck here. And once again, the heel is the more popular guy. The baby face is the guy they boo out of the buildings. The only guy they can believe is real or could be real is Brock. And that's why they cheer him. And the guy they want to cheer, or they want the fans to cheer, has been picked by the bosses to be the guy, and the fans know this is why they won't cheer him, even though he's a great wrestler and he did shit fine. So I don't know how you could have got out of this, but that was the flattest WrestleMania ending in recorded history. Boom. 1, 2, 3. Well, fuck you. You thought you knew what was going to happen, and off we go. And everybody's like, huh? Because now what? And they had teased and Dana White being there, and they teased Brock was going back to the UFC, and that was good for what it was. But there's a reason why that WrestleMania has almost always had a happy ending, and that's because that's the flattest ending of WrestleMania I've ever fucking seen.
Yeah, I think you were wrong about something. You compared Brock to mid-'60s Dick the Bruiser. I think, unfortunately, it's more like late 70s Dick the Bruiser now, because Brock and Heyman, and I can't think of a worse fate for Heyman, have both just become boring. Quite frankly, it's the same match. It's just suplex after suplex. He doesn't look like he wants to be there. Heyman seemingly does the same promo now every time I see him. They've become boring.
Yeah, well, and on the time frame, mid-'60s maybe, because in the terms of Brock is still athletic and still moves around and throws people around and looks, he's not like just moving like a fucking senior citizen. But he ain't doing a lot of different shit. But then again, I don't even, if that's the Brock Lesnar match and that works for most people, and it works most of the time, and they don't see him enough to get sick of it, really. But he needs to have somebody that either is going to be a mega baby face against him, or somebody that he can be a mega baby face against. And with Heyman, once again, the people that are going to be stirred up, nobody's going to be stirred up by Heyman to want to assault him physically or get real old school heat, as they say. So Heyman, except that he's in the contract and Brock just likes to have him around because he can take up some of the talking work, Heyman should be with a young guy if they're going to use him for very much longer to help get the young guy over. Because they can't really boo Brock with Heyman with him, because most of the audience really is going to like Heyman because he's great at what he fucking does when he's motivated. It's a psychological, I don't know what the fuck, but now who's the fucking guy? Have we got any idea?
No. Did you watch any of Raw the next night?
No, Jesus Christ, no, for God's sake. I was already trying to adhere to my low-carb diet, so the last thing I would do was watch more.
What do you think of Bobby Lashley coming back, though?
Well, I heard about it, and I'm happy because he's a great guy, and he's a great employee and a great guy to have in the locker room, and he's an imposing fucking figure, and I bet they could probably have some good matches, he and Brock, or a good match as often as Brock works, but Bobby Lashley is not going to be the guy either. At this point, they're just due to age and starting, from scratch again. Let me see who on this show.
Yeah, who did you
I'm just going to go back and look through.
That you would make the guy.
I'm not going to say in any order. I'm going to go through and mention people that would be in my fucking talent pool. Seth Rollins. Not any of the ladies are a separate category. Seth Rollins, Bobby Roode, Randy Orton. Can't say Kurt Angle, can't say Triple H, but they were in the best match.
They should run with the women's division. That's where it is right now.
I mean, you didn't get a good Daniel Bryan. We don't know where he's at, and we didn't get a good look at Owens and Zayn. But I don't think Zayn's not going to be the guy. Daniel Bryan could be if he fucking fulfills a full schedule. The jury's out on Owens as being he's not going to be the baby face. AJ Nakamura's a heel now. He's not going to be the guy.
By the way, both guys older, not younger guys there.
Well, I was about to say, and AJ's almost 40. AJ's not going to be in the future the guy in the WWF. Strowman just won the fucking tag titles with a fucking kid as his partner. So even though he beat two guys that traditionally would get a guy over strong, it was in a stupid, goofy, phony match, which made people groan. Well, there you go. Holy shit.
The women's division, man, that's where it's at. You have Charlotte Flair. Who's the woman going to be? You have Charlotte Flair.
I'm just flabbergasted. If this was the biggest show of the year and they seemed that there was 1 million people on it, and when you take Roman Reigns out of the occasion and say who's going to be the guy next, and we can't go much farther than those people that should be that would be in the top mix, in my opinion.
Well, let me ask you this: based on what you saw,
not to be the guy, but he deserves to be one of them.
Based on what you saw, because I'm sure a lot of the listeners will be screaming this. What about Gargano?
Oh, Jesus Christ! No, he ain't ready for that. Get him a fucking mirror, and like Tojo Yamamoto used to do, Jarrett or Bobby Eaton. He'd turn the fucking rear view mirror in the car while the guy was driving and he was in the passenger seat. And he would fucking take his fingernail of his thumb and his forefinger and dig his fingernail as hard as he could into the fucking guy's earlobe. And he'd say, see your face? Now you make that face when I don't squeeze. Get him some fucking mirrors. No, Gargano can't be the guy at this point or in the near future. Over any of the names that I just spoke about, I don't think so. Ciampa would be closer to being the fucking guy than Gargano, and I don't think he's there. It's that's I guess now we know why every time they bring a legend back, he generally kicks the shit these days, kicks the shit out of the new guys, is because they're still better. If we've established that the champion can be part-time, I'd go Angle and Lesnar. And where's Samoa Joe?
He was on Raw the next night. He had a confrontation with Roman Reigns.
Okay. At least he's still around. Well, there you go. Samoa Joe, there's a fucking guy. Kurt Angle. Cinderella story out of nowhere. If Brock got his fucking panties in a wad or as a transition or whatever the fuck, who knows? But there's not and Samoa Joe's not a spring chicken either, but he's still got some gas left in the tank. So I don't know. I don't know what to tell you.
Well, there it is, the post-John Cena world of wrestling as heard on the Jim Cornette Experience.
Well, now, and I mean, do you see what I'm saying? And I may be biased, but a lot of this is valid critique. It was schizophrenic show. There were some things that belonged and some things that didn't. And it could have been shorter and edited out the needless misery and concentrated on the good shit, and it probably made the same amount of money. But a lot of, I think it's basically the lesson we've learned is to get over, guys, you have to stop worrying about a smooth choreographed gymnastics routine and worry more about trying to make it look like a struggle, picking your spots, and also recognizing that some people have the size and the physical charisma to be viewed as a top guy by not only the people in the office, but the people in the stands. And some people need to be the fucking best friend in the movie.
Yeah, and WrestleMania was a lot better when it was 3 hours. Because honestly, yes. I was done after the Rousey match. That was a perfect match. I was really done there. I was exhausted sitting on my couch watching. Imagine being in that building. How exhausted you were after that match and for the rest of the evening. And that's why the crowd died down the rest of the show. And
once again, and Daniel Bryan being in the middle. this whole idea of spacing things out, okay, we'll have a big match, we'll give them a breather and blah, blah, blah. It's a modern era thing. I was always taught the shows that I attended for the most part and the shows that I tried to book built from the start to the finish. At least that's the way they were intended. And some of my middles were hot and some of my ends were hot and some of my in between that sometimes let me down. But I always tried to build the fucking show from start to finish, and this was up and down like a fucking Trump stock market report. So I don't know. It wasn't as enjoyable as if I'd have, when you've already had, imagine you have the greatest sex of your life, and then she tries to get you interested again, and you manage to pull it off a second time. But then she tries to get you interested. And by the end of the night, you're like, I actually just wish we could all go home or have something to eat. So all right. Anyway.
So the best thing you saw, obviously, all weekend was the Rousey match. What was the worst thing you saw?
Well, I mean, it worse in what way? The tag team match with the Kid as partner was stupid. And was a death slot to begin with, but at the same time, out of the women's battle royal was just some phony fucking bullshit looking wrestling because a lot of those girls didn't look like they had very much experience in battle royals and they were just standing around. It just depended on but it wasn't a shining moment. And I would have rather seen a lot of the talent in the multi-person matches, in single matches, and eliminate a couple of those people rather than, because once again, I know they're trying to get everybody on the show, and everybody can't be on Broadway either. I don't know what to say. But that's about it.
It certainly is.
And at least Nakamura gets how to turn heel too, boy. I enjoyed it. It's almost like they were going every other thing I would enjoy and every other thing I'd try to turn the show off.
But there's a cool story there too, because if you remember the Royal Rumble, Asuka won the Women's Royal Rumble and Nakamura won the Men's Royal Rumble. So here they are, the two Japanese competitors, both going to WrestleMania to get world title shots. Asuka loses, has that embrace with Charlotte afterwards, gives her the hug. So here's Nakamura, who also loses. So now they both win the Royal Rumble. They both lose the championship match. Nakamura goes for the hug. Nakamura turns on him.
Yeah. The whole thing was nice. And that's all. Once again, and if I was some of the talent, I would be a little bit more willing to say, hey, no, hold on here a second. When they try to put me in with the fucking people dressed like pancakes and shit. Because the matches that get over, the matches that people talk about, the matches that fucking people remember are the serious matches that were fucking done well and not the silliness that just stuck people on the show. So, I don't know. That's just my opinions. I'm going to burn this notepad immediately after the fucking show.
Do you think it's fair to say that the Triple H, Stephanie versus Angle Rousey match is one of the all-time great WrestleMania matches?
It's got to be. Because once again, it's not about how many fucking suplexes they did off onto the concrete floor. It's about execution and whether the people wanted to fucking see it and timing. And it had everything that a pro wrestling match should have. Everybody did exactly what they should have done in exactly the perfect way and with a timing where nothing got old and nothing was really telegraphed too much. And people popped on everything and they were with it from beginning to end. It was a perfect pro wrestling match. And that's why I always would tell guys at tryouts or that were trying to do dark matches. I don't want a degree of difficulty of fucking 10 and an execution of 5. Flip it the other way around. I want the degree of difficulty of 5, but I want an execution of 10. Flawless, as good as you can get. That gets the people. Don't run off and leave them, and don't lay there until you lose them. And that's hard to do. So when people try to do the 10 and the 10, that's when they really fuck up. And that's when they have these goddamn messes that Gargano and Ciampa did, which we know they can work. Those guys. And they had a great tag team match with fucking Revival because they didn't do every goddamn thing in the world. This was not Flair and Steamboat. This was way beyond Flair and Steamboat as far as trying to do everything that's ever been done. And it was multiple kinds of matches and throwing in too much excess drama and blah, blah, blah. And as you can tell, I've got a sore throat talking about it. But when something is done that well and that kind of timing, that's when it keeps the people all the way through. That when it gets the big pop at the end, and that's when the people remember it. And once again, it's nice when the people are standing on their feet when you come out, because they want to see it already. They're more likely to like what you do. But as Dennis Connery used to teach us, me and Bobby Eaton, when we first went to Louisiana, we don't care what they're fucking doing when we go out, as long as they're standing up when we leave. And a lot of people either wear out their welcome or front load their shit to where you really can't. Once again, you can't milk them from flaccid, from completely limp. There needs to be a tickle of the taint, and a little blood starts going to it, and then the little tickling of the nipples, and the whatever, and then finally the big one, and then finally the boom, and there you go. And then you don't want to go back and start tickling the taint. You want to go get a sandwich.
Every match can't be a 2-minute hooker blowjob in an alley.
Exactly. Only the lucky ones. All right, with that, ladies and gentlemen, let's just leave now. We'll just walk out, and hopefully no one will notice that we have left. Ladies and gentlemen, until next week, well, you can listen to the drive-thru.